Hey there, what's going on guys? Today let's check out 25 Pillager Outpost seeds for Minecraft Java 1.16 versions. I'm recording this video in Minecraft 1.16.1. Again, these seeds are for Java Edition only and will not work in Bedrock Edition. All seeds were discovered by myself and will feature an outpost at or right near the spawn of this seed. Alright, let's get started. To start off, we have a seed with a Pillager Outpost right in front of you at spawn. The outpost sits right in the middle of a plains biome. It is surrounded by mountains, a birch forest, and a roofed forest. This is a brilliant place for a spawn building. There is also a village nearby spawn. Check out how this little farm generates. Water flows right down into the animal pen. The next seed has an outpost on the edge of an ocean on a very tiny taiga island. Check out how small this biome actually is. The outpost generates with a caged iron golem. There is a ruined portal right nearby spawn too. It generates on the edge of a forest and inside of a plains biome. Across the ocean from spawn, you can find a mesa biome. It's always great having a mesa biome fairly close to spawn. There's also a village pretty close to the mesa. It's a blacksmith village, so make sure to check out all of the loot inside of it. This seed here has an outpost that spawns right inside of a plains biome. The plains biome splits right between a desert. The outpost generates with a cage, but mine didn't actually generate with anything inside of it. There's also a ravine nearby the outpost. South of the outpost, you can find a ruined portal inside of the desert. It's actually a buried ruined portal with just a small portion sticking out of the ground. A really interesting way for it to generate. Next up, we have a seed that spawns you next to an outpost which generates with a tent. My tent generation was missing one of the wool blocks because of the tall grass. The outpost generates in the middle of a plains biome near a small section of trees, some water, and surrounded by multiple sections of mountains. The Pillager Outpost in this seed generates with two different tents. The outpost is inside of a plains biome which is surrounded by plenty of trees with a forest and roofed forest nearby. In the distance you can see a swamp. There is actually a ruined portal right near the swamp directly west of the outpost. Pretty cool having it spawn in the middle of water like this. I also wanted to point out this location in this seed. It has a desert temple and a village right next to each other. And there's this ruined portal on the edge of this hill. Definitely a great opportunity to gather some loot here. Next, let's look at this seed that has an outpost on the edge of a roofed forest biome. It also generates partly inside of a plains biome too. And it generates with a caged iron golem. In the nearby desert biome, you can find a village pretty close to spawn. It generates right near a ravine and this heart-shaped lava pool. This village is definitely another place you should check out and explore. Now we have a seed that has a few things that are near spawn. Obviously, the first is the Pillager Outpost. It generates on the edge of a plains biome and a desert biome. It generates with two targets. Directly west from the outpost, you can find a desert temple. It's a partly buried temple. Of course, a great place for loot. Directly south of the outpost is a ruined portal. It generates right on the edge of the desert and plains biome. The next seed has an outpost in a plains biome and on the edge of a swamp. There are also some mountains nearby, along with a birch forest. In this seed, there is also a woodland mansion just 370 blocks away from spawn. For size perspective, I counted 6 rooms on the top floor of the mansion. That includes this cat room. This seed here has an outpost in a plains biome that is near a desert. The outpost generates with a tent which has a tree right next to it and some pumpkins inside. Check out this generation in the desert too. It looks a bit like the number 1. Just southwest of the outpost, there is a partly buried desert temple. As always, make sure to grab the loot inside, but don't step on that pressure plate. Northwest of the outpost, there is a small desert village. It generates right near an ocean, with some of the buildings and paths actually in the ocean. In this seed, we have a Pillager Outpost that generates in between two villages. The outpost itself generates inside of a taiga biome. One of the villages generates northwest of the outpost. It's a taiga village that stretches into the forest biome. The other village generates southeast of the outpost. This is a plains village near a snowy tundra. Check out these buildings that generate on this hill. Here we have a seed that spawns you next to a Pillager Outpost that is inside of a taiga biome. But this isn't just any taiga biome, this is actually a nice big taiga island. Pretty awesome place for this world to spawn you. In this seed here, we have another outpost that generates inside of a plains biome. This one actually generates right on the edge of an ocean too. In that ocean, there is also a ruined portal. Seeing the ruined portal underwater like this is really interesting. Could you possibly transform this outpost into a lighthouse build or something? Now let's look at this seed at lucky number 13 with a plains pillager outpost that generates on the edge of a roofed forest biome. There is also a swamp and regular forest nearby. The outpost generates with a cage. Right next to the outpost there is a ruined portal. It's just a few blocks away from the outpost. If you look over the roofed forest, you can actually see a mesa biome. As mentioned before, it's always great generating so close to a mesa biome. That means you don't have to travel thousands of blocks away to get to it. This seed here generates an outpost that is surrounded by a roofed forest along with some water. The outpost generates with a tent. The outpost itself is generated on this elevated land, which looks pretty cool. Nearby the outpost, there is actually a plains village. It's a pretty big village with tons of buildings. Definitely a lot to explore here. In this seed, we have an outpost that generates inside of a taiga and giant tree taiga biome. Really cool seeing the outpost surrounded by those massive trees. It's also really close to an ocean. And right off the coast, you can find a coral reef. Now, getting into the final 10 seeds, we have this outpost that generates near a few biomes. It's in a plains biome, but generates right next to a savanna. It also generates next to a river, and there's a desert nearby and some mountains in the distance. Directly west of the outpost, you can find a desert village. Some of the village extends into the savanna biome. Next up, let's look at this seed that has an outpost that generates on this big plains island. It generates right on the edge of the island, and it has these logs that generate with it. I really like this little bit of world generation here. The next seed has a few interesting things that generate pretty close to spawn. Of course, one of those things is the Pillager Outpost. This outpost actually generates inside of a swamp biome. In the same swamp nearby is a witch hut. Check it out if you want to. Near the swamp, you can also see a mesa biome, actually a wooded Badlands Plateau biome to be specific. And near the mesa is a village. The desert village generates on the edge of the mesa, with some of it stretching into the birch forest. This seed here has a pillager outpost that generates right next to a river, lake type area. The outpost generates with an iron golem cage. If you continue down the river, you'll find a ruined portal. It is right on the other side of this hill that you can see from the outpost. In this seed, we have a pillager outpost that generates on an island. The island actually only has one tree on it. The outpost generates right on the ocean. These two targets have their own little island. There's also a golem cage here. You can find an ocean monument right nearby too. It's only about 115 blocks away from the island. Getting into the final 5 seeds here, we have this outpost that generates in a desert. In fact, it actually generates right nearby this little desert here. Probably the least exciting structure to find in Minecraft. However, just north of the outpost, you can find a desert temple. The more exciting thing to find in the desert. So definitely a great chance at collecting some loot to start your world. Now let's look at this seed that has another outpost that generates inside of a taiga biome. This outpost generates up on this little hill here, so it's elevated a bit. It generates with a cage. There is a jungle biome nearby. With my render distance up a bit, seeing the mountain on the other side of the jungle looks pretty awesome. Here is a jungle temple that you can go to. It actually generates right on the edge of the taiga biome. Into the final 3 skins we go with this one here. The outpost in this seed has some pretty cool generation as it generates on top of some water. This creates a bit of a glitchy looking bottom to the outpost. It generates with a cage too. The cage and the outpost are right next to a mushroom fields biome formerly known as the Mushroom Island. It's connected to the plains biome. Across the ocean towards the south you can find a mesa biome. So you get a couple of rare biomes that are quite close to spawn in this seed. In this seed here, we have a pretty cool location for the outpost to generate. It's inside of a roofed forest biome and on the edge of some water and near a plains. In the distance, you can see some mountains and a frozen ocean. This outpost generates with a tent. Nearby spawn, you can find a ruined portal. It's right inside of the spawn's plains biome. And nearby here is actually a village too. Another great place to check out if you want to. And finally, there is a mesa pretty close to spawn in this seed too. We've definitely gotten pretty lucky with some closed mesa biomes in a bunch of seeds we've seen today. To finish off, the final seed I want to share with you today has a ton to check out near spawn. Of course, you spawn right next to the Pillager Outpost. This outpost generates in a plains biome which is surrounded by a few different biomes, including a roofed forest, desert, and savanna. You will see a mansion off in the distance within the roofed forest. I counted 6 rooms on the top floor of the mansion, including this hidden room here. Right next to the mansion is a witch's hut. Another place for you to check out if you want to. There is also a ruined portal right next to the mansion too. In fact, it actually generates going into the mansion location. Additionally, you'll find a savanna village right near the outpost too. It's a decent sized village for you to check out with a lot to explore. And finally, you can find a desert temple in the desert that is right near spawn. Let me know which type of loot that you get in the temple. There is definitely a lot to check out in this seed that is right near spawn. So there you have 25 Pillager Outpost seeds that are working in Minecraft Java 1.16 versions. Again, I recorded this in Minecraft 1.16.1. These seeds are for the Java edition of Minecraft. I'll definitely have more seed videos coming out in the future, but feel free to check out any of my other seed videos I have already created in the meantime too. Be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you'll be notified when new videos are released on my channel. But that is going to do it for me guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm out of here. See ya.